Welcome everybody to Dead Talk Live, and tonight we have a very special guest from the show that just ended its first season. That is Star Trek: Strange New Worlds on CBS and Paramount Plus. Melissa Navia, who plays Erica Ortegas. Melissa, thank you so much for being with us here today. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to talking, and I think this is my first live podcast, so this is awesome. And let's see how it
Let's
goes.
see how it goes. So I got to ask you straight off the bat. Now, uh, Ortega's is a witty smartass, for lack of a better term. Are
Yes.
you like that yourself in real life? Tell us about the differences between you and Ortega's.
Yeah, well, I'd like to say I am. One of the cool things about when I got the audition, the breakdown, it felt so much like me. And there's something we say in this industry, especially when you are a working actor and you've been doing this for so long. It's like when the right role, is the right when the role is yours, the right role will come along. And
Yeah.
so when I got the breakdown, I remember thinking it was so interesting because it was like not only did they describe her as Latina, but they said she was a soldier and a pilot. And even though I've not been those things, I've played them many
Hmm.
times throughout my acting career. And then it specifically said something along the lines of, she can crack a joke as easily as she can handle a gun. And so I have weapons experience, and I'm a stand-up comedian, and a lot of the roles I've played, I've gotten to play these really kind of intelligent, nuanced, witty characters that you get to see all these different sides of her. So in a lot of ways, the role of Ortegas was kind of like all of the roles that I've loved in one.
Hmm.
Not to mention that she was the helmsman of the USS Enterprise. So
Can't beat that.
when I right, so when I went into audition, it was, and the writing was also so good, which of course, as you guys have seen, as everyone who's seen the show has seen, is so good. It was the same in our audition sides. And so I always say when the writing is good, the acting is quite easy, at least for me. And so it felt very much like me. And then something that producers did, not just for me, but for all of the series regulars and the guest stars, was they allowed ourselves, our own attributes, to inform the characters that they wrote,
That's
which was a very cool thing to do. And also just they put a lot of trust in us very early on. And especially for the legacy characters, that's why we get to see just such wonderful portrayals that honor the actors and the characters who have come before, but then kind of put their own spin on it. And I, of course, am not tethered to a legacy character, so I have that extra bit of leeway, which I
leeway.
enjoy.
Absolutely. Now, congratulations. The show is coming back for a season two. Did you guys going in that you were going to do at least two seasons, or did you find out halfway through? When did you find out that it got picked up for another season?
Sure. So going into season one, we already knew that there was a lot of pressure on the show. I like to always say that the Trekkies in my life, and especially I tell this story about one of my brother-in-laws who's a Trekkie, and when he found out that I had booked Strange New Worlds, he told me, he's like, "This is the one that we've been waiting for our whole lives," and that really kind of set the bar for me as to the pressure that we were under, and the kind of the expectations that fans were set it had set for us. So we knew it was going to be a big deal. We also knew, of course, Anson, Ethan, and Rebecca had been on Discovery, and so in a lot of ways, it was the fans who were integral in making sure that the show, Strange New Worlds, got made. The
Mm-hmm.
studio saw this wonderful reception and excitement for the characters coming back, and so we knew that there was a fan base that really really wanted us, and so that was really great going into it. And then when we were filming, we were in the midst of the pandemic. We were in the midst of being in like full lockdown in Toronto, and so the only thing we really knew about how good the show was the scripts we were getting and what we were doing. But the set, the crew, the cast, we were in our own bubble.
Yeah.
So, some of the times, we were like, is this really as good as we think it is? And so we found out, sure enough, you guys have all responded that it has been. And we knew in September of what would that have been, 2021.
Hmm.
We heard whisperings that we were going to be picked up for a season two, but nothing is ever anything until
Yeah.
it's something. Until you get a letter, until you get something signed, you like to not say anything. And so we went into filming season two before the world had even seen one episode of season one, and so that was also a very strange experience. But as an actor, it's
Welcome.
job security.
Now, what I love this show, and I gotta say, what makes Strange New Worlds really good, as well as Discovery and the other shows, is that it really goes back to the Star Trek fundamentals. Um, Going back to the 60s and then into the 80s and 90s with Next Generation, it goes back to the Star Trek fundamentals, and I think that plays a huge role in its success. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I would say that even when the show was announced, which was even before I was a part of it, it was, again, we were in pandemic times, which I know we still are, but it was, really new for all of us. We're all trying to make sense of it, and it was just, there was this optimism, this hopefulness about it, that we were, going back to legacy characters that had really kicked off the franchise, and that
Hmm.
have been so enduring. What I love about Star Trek is, even if someone is not a Trekkie or even a fan, or would say, would not even call themselves, even, that they don't know that much about it, they do know Star Trek, they
Yeah.
know Captain Kirk, they know the Enterprise. And so that's, you don't find that a lot, that pretty much anyone you speak to of any generation knows what I'm talking about. And I always like to say that my mom, for years I used to tell her, I said, one day I'm going to book something that when you talk to your church friends, they will know immediately what your daughter is on, and you won't have to explain and tell them where to go find me. And so that's been a real prayer answered. Um, but yeah, so we had this, we knew that this was going to be a very hopeful show, an optimistic show. And then, producers are really putting out that it was going to go back to this adventure of the week type format,
Hmm.
which is, what worked, I think, at the beginning in the 60s, in the original series, and TV as of late, it's taken this serialized arc, which works. And there's absolutely a space for it. And it's, TV has become the production quality, and the audience for it, and the way we can stream things. TV is really on the level of
Yeah.
of the best films.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
really very cinematic. But I think what we're doing with Strange New Worlds is that there are serialized aspects to it. Storylines that continue through the episodes, but it also has this feeling of like you're tapping into a story every week that you can
Exactly.
tap into anew.
Exactly.
And so even if you don't have the time to kind of be with the series for every single week, you can still you know turn it on and
Hmm.
and know what's going on and enjoy it. And as much as we can theorize about how that works, and why people want, how much people want it, what I've seen, and it's been a really beautiful thing. I'll speak for myself, but I think I can speak for the cast as well, to be able to have been shooting season two while watching the world experience season one. Because what we were hearing from fans on social media was, I've had a bad week, I've had a bad month, this has been a terrible year, everything is miserable, I look forward to Strange New Worlds. Like, it makes me happy. And
Yeah.
that sounds like such a, it sounds kind of silly, but I know I think you understand this, I as a storyteller understand this. It's not silly. Like,
Yeah.
stories are what makes the world go round. And I think we really saw, in 2020, and since then, we saw that, when everything around us is crumbling, what do we turn to? We turn to stories.
Yep.
um, and also the cool thing that I've seen, um, because I'm a fan as well, and I've definitely become a much bigger fan, in the last year and a half or so, for sure. But I've found myself watching the episodes that I shot. I'm in them.
Hmm.
I know what happens, and in my life, I've had personal things happen in the last 6 months that have changed my worldview in a lot of ways. And so episodes that I saw and I acted in and I created a year ago, I'm now looking at, in new ways, like, without necessarily giving any spoilers in case people haven't seen, but like for episode 9, with what happens with the Gorn and kind of what
Hmm.
happens in the aftermath, that hit me real differently watching it, even from when I performed it. And so I think that's the true sign of a wonderful story, where you can go back to it over and over and over again, and each time you're seeing something new and you're still enjoying it.
Hmm.
But you can apply what's happening in your life to it. and that's why I like telling stories, and that's why I do what I do.
Now, what did you think when you saw the script for the finale and that they were going to bring the character of James T. Kirk into the storyline? I mean, were you excited? What were your feelings about that?
Sure. So on the one hand, I knew kind of, because I'd really been tapping into, like, what fans were saying online. I always joke with Celia, who plays Uhura, and we're always talking about how, like, we can always be multitasking. We're really good with social media. Some actors, some cast members don't like kind of seeing what everybody's saying, but
Yeah,
we are the opposite. We're like, what's going on? What do people think? And so I knew that there were a lot of fans that didn't want to see James Kirk because they didn't want to take the spotlight away from Captain Pike.
Pike.
Kind
Yeah,
of having his own show, and I understood that. And then other fans that did, and of course that's with any great right franchise and fandom. You're always going to have these discussions, which
yeah.
are as long as they're done in a healthy and civil way, they're very welcome. And so, but at that point, by the time we saw the finale, like, I trusted the writers and the producers so much when they explained what they were doing, which is essentially this really clever and well done mirroring of Balance of Terror, which is a classic episode from the original series. And
Yep.
for anybody who's seen the finale but hasn't seen that episode of the original series, I highly recommend it.
Hmm.
And then when they explained what they were doing and how it tied in so well with Pike's struggle throughout the season,
Yes.
of knowing his future and what is he going to do about that. And so it really brings into question kind of something that we've all dabbled with, in
Hmm.
terms of, like, if we knew what was going to happen, would we try to change it, and what else would that affect? And so I just thought it was wonderful. And the fact that the way that they brought in James Kirk as the captain of another ship, and essentially we're in a future that should not exist.
Exactly. It's an
um,
alternate timeline.
Right. It's an alternate timeline, and we don't know what happened in those intervening years. And for me, one of the things that fans have been saying, in the whole run of the season, has been, that they've wanted to see, more of my character, which, as an
Hmm.
actor, that's a wonderful thing to hear. It's like you always want to hear that they want more of you, not less. And I absolutely love, and just thank everyone who's been threatening, full scale revolts if Ortegas did not get her centered episode. But I was like, everybody, patience. These things take time. But the wonderful thing about Ortegas is that every episode we've seen, like, a different aspect of her, and we've gotten to see a different layer in a way that she's we've not had kind of these huge emotional arcs that you've necessarily had with some of our legacy characters. But you've gotten to see different aspects to her. In episode 9, you see an aspect to her that you've not seen before,
Exactly.
when she's talking about Hemmer, which I was so grateful to have the opportunity to do. And then in episode 10, I basically got Chris Fisher, who was our director, and he was just extraordinary in the role. He basically told me, he was like, we all love Ortegas. He was talking as the producers, as the writers, as the fan base. He's just like, everyone is really going to fall for Ortegas. And what we want, though, in this episode is the opposite.
Hmm.
We want the Ortegas that we don't want to go have a drink with, and we want to know why, what's happened. And so the rapport that everybody's come to love with Pike and Erica, is suddenly not there. And so what I got to play with was a whole different side of the character, and I got to create kind of this own backstory for myself, which I discussed a bit with Chris Fisher. And so that was just a lot of fun to play. And then we got to match a lot of what was done in Balance of Terror in a way that was just beautiful to see,
And I
when
was
it all came together.
I was going to bring that up as well because in the first half and to the middle latter half of the season, Ortega's is funny, smart ass kind of person you want to go have a beer with. But then in the finale, she stands up to the captain. I mean,
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
whoa, she's also a person that when the chips are down, uh, puts that fun side of her aside and gets to work, gets to business, and is not scared of sharing her opinion. Uh,
yeah.
when you had to, sort of do that role reversal and show us that different side of Ortega's. I mean, what did you do? I mean, what helped you flip over and show us that different side?
Sure. So on the one hand, what you said about like her, always kind of, you know, being able to do the work and that kind of being foremost for her, that's interesting because it stayed with me throughout all 10 episodes. And I heard fans saying at one point, as they were watching all the episodes, that one of the great things about Ortegas and Hemmer is that we know the least about them, out of all the characters, but everyone seems to love them the most because they're funny, they're insightful, and they're also doing their job.
Yeah,
So in that way, Ortegas is very much Starfleet. She's an excellent helmsman, and she is so skilled at her job that she's able to, to have those moments of levity on the bridge, and Pike allows it because they obviously have history,
hmm,
and he trusts his helmsman fully, and so you get to see that. But then we get to episode 10, and you still see the same thing, right? She's when things have to get done and it's time for business, she stands by what she believes in,
exactly.
and what she really believes in is that the Romulans need to be taken out. And I think too what happened, especially, and again, everybody's discussing it. That's the hallmark of a wonderful episode, when you can have so much discussion. But I think, definitely people who knew the TOS episode, they were almost like, they were upset that, like, Ortegas was taking on the role of the character in that original episode that
Yeah,
was bigoted, and he had his reasons for disliking Romulans flat out. And so, but what we had discussed, in like our directors meeting, was that wasn't the case here so much. Like, you don't know what's happened in the intervening years, and what I think we don't touch on very much in season one, and we will more in season two. Slight spoiler, but is Ortegas's backstory as a soldier,
okay.
as a combat veteran, and so what the finale kind of makes us ask is what has happened to this person who you still see those hallmarks of. She's an excellent pilot. She doesn't agree with Pike's way of going about things, but she is still gonna, he needs her to get
Yeah,
from point A to B, and she's gonna get there faster than anybody else can. But she definitely, she just saw a ship, blown out of the sky, or what is it, a station blown out of the sky,
outpost.
an outpost, without
Yeah,
any sort of regard for the human life on it.
yeah,
And so it feels like she's had this discussion with Pike before about, it is always the Romulans. Like, why are we going in circles?
hmm,
And then it's, of course, it's the whole thing with, her and Spock, butting heads. But what kind of is underneath that is wondering what happened. What is her backstory with the Romulans? There was, the Romulans have a history that Star Trek fans know of. Like, who has she lost, at the hands of Romulans?
yeah,
And then it also asks us, it makes us question, people can go through similar situations in life and emerge from it differently.
hmm,
Um, and what causes that, and how does that happen? And so, I would like to think that by the time we reach the end of the finale, you see that she sees the Romulan, commander who sides with Pike, and he gives up his life. And again, I'm totally sorry, it's total spoilers, guys. But I did warn everybody who's going to watch this that there'd be spoilers. I'll
yes,
stop now. But so you see her kind of have a change of heart that isn't spoken. It's not, we're not banging you over the head on it, but
hmm.
I'd like to think that if somebody sees that episode more than once, they kind of see that
Oh, I saw
in
it
the
right
way that
away.
I.
Yeah,
Oh, thank you. But in the way that you see that, and things are different. I won't say anymore. But what happens at the end of the episode is truly life altering for everybody, if
absolutely.
that future existed. And so I'd like to think that she is now going to take a different view of just how much she despised the Romulans, and especially too with what happens at the end, again, without saying too much. And so it was just, for me, it was just a wonderful opportunity to play a completely different,
Yeah,
um, side of Ortegas. And I don't think there's a lot of shows out there that allow you that kind of range. I
no,
mean, you saw the fantasy episode
yeah,
8. I was a knight. I
yes.
mean,
That
I mean,
was
right?
awesome.
Like just crazy. So
One of the things is you guys, everyone has amazing chemistry with each other on the show. And you in particular, let's take you and Nurse Chapel. Okay? You guys have a great friendship. You seem to have great relationships. Now, I know that a lot of that for what we see on the screen is fostered in what happens behind the scenes.
Yeah.
So, would you say you guys get along really well, in between shoots?
Oh my goodness, we absolutely do, and I tell everybody, I'm like, as much as you love all the characters on screen, I'm so happy to be able to relay to you that are really that way in life. Like we hang out. They are just the coolest bunch of people. They're all extraordinarily good looking, which is neither here nor there, but that's just the truth.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all extraordinarily talented in ways beyond our acting. They're just fun to hang out with. Especially, I've been very thankful. I've been going through grief these last 6 months, and I could not have thought of. I can't think of a better group of people to have had to spend almost every day with, and including the crew as well. But one thing that when we started to get the screeners for the first episodes of season one, the producers were like, it jumps off the screen how much you guys legitimately like each other.
Yes, it does.
Um, and I especially like too. I think it's our episode 5, our shore leave episode, where I get to hang with with Chapel and Dr. Mbenga,
Yes.
because I get to hang with Jess and Babs, and I think fans have been really craving that, to kind of see the camaraderie between crew members, in different parts of the ship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I absolutely adore Babs. I adore Jess. I adore Ethan. I always say Ethan is just a light on set that is just, is you can't extinguish it. He's just really a wonderful energy. I mean, Rebecca and Anston, I'm so happy to have them kind of at the head of this ship. Celia is the youngest of us,
Yeah.
and she is constantly teaching us new things. Like sometimes I feel like she's more mature than I am. Jess and Chrissy, Jess is so cool, and she's an artist, and Chrissy has become like a sister to me. Who am I missing? Then Bruce as Hemmer. It's just wonderful. I just saw him on stage. He was doing something at Fringe in Toronto, and I got to see him on stage. I was like, I
That
was
is
so
so
sad
cool. After
after
yeah.
yeah, after it happens. I was like, oh God, Bruce, I'm so happy to. And on set, he took so long to get into prosthetics that I never saw Bruce on set as Bruce. I always saw him as Hemmer, which was like so crazy. Like the first time I really like got to interact with him as Bruce, because we would do all of our cast reads via Zoom. It was probably at the New York City premiere.
Wow.
And Bruce too. Bruce is also an artist. Yeah, just everyone is just absolutely wonderful. I hope I haven't
Well,
missed anybody, but yeah,
I
love
think
them
you
all.
got
And
pretty much everyone. Yeah. I mean, it's
yeah,
amazing. We cannot wait for season 2. Again, guys, it's Star Trek Strange New Worlds. The complete first season, which is done now, is available on Paramount Plus. Check it out. You won't be disappointed. And if you are a Star Trek fan and haven't watched this yet, you need to watch it. If you're not a Star Trek fan, go ahead and watch it. You will become a Star Trek fan. I want to thank Melissa so much for coming on here and sharing some of her experiences. Thank you to our audience. Any final thoughts you want to share before we go, Melissa?
I'll just to everybody watching and to anybody who watches this, just the fans have been phenomenal, absolutely wonderful, and you guys have been in our hearts while we were shooting season 2, and I just keep saying, trust that this franchise and Strange New Worlds is in very good hands. It's being told by fans, the producers, the writers, the actors, the crew. Like we are Star Trek fans, and so we understand the importance of this to you, and we cannot wait. We finished shooting season 2. We're now putting it together and putting all the pieces together, and we can't wait to get it to you.
I didn't know that. I would have guessed that you're in between seasons. I didn't know that you guys already done season 2, which is great.
We
You know.
we just wrapped about a week and a half ago, maybe a week. I'm still just kind of waking up from it because we saved some of the craziest scenes for last, and so it's an absolutely wild ride. And but now all the special effects and the music and all those things that
That's what
make Star
takes.
Trek.
That's what
Exactly.
takes 6 to 8 months to finish up.
Right,
I
right, and
want
that's
to.
why when I watch the episodes, it's like watching them for the first time.
I
So,
Yep.
but we're working on it. So,
Yep, absolutely. I cannot wait. Again, thank you to our audience. Thank you to Melissa. Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Check it out. Available now on Paramount Plus. On behalf of Melissa Navia and myself, guys, stay safe. Thank you for tuning in. Stay walking. Bye bye.